Kail Lowry has Gypsy Rose Blanchard on her podcast and they're promoting her book. I'm minding my business through my little Insta, okay? And I see that Kail posted something, so I said, okay, let me go ahead and check it out. And they're talking about how we read, we don't judge. Kail, I love you, girl. This was not something that I was expecting to see. And it was funny because Kail had posted something earlier saying, oh, guess who I'm a collab with? And I was really wondering, like, oh, I wonder who it's gonna be. This was not what I was expecting. Literally promoting her book. I'm shocked. Literally shook it. Like, this was not what I was expecting at all.
So, Kail, are you really supporting a woman that used a man with autism, a low IQ, and was collecting a permanent disability check with other mental health issues? Is that what you're doing now, Kail? Because I had a whole lot more respect for you. I actually have always respected you a lot for how you handle business and how well you take care of your kids. But the fact that this woman is on here lying and you are playing into this? Wow.
Gypsy's recent collaboration with influencer Kail Lowry on the Barely Famous podcast is creating chaos, and not the kind either of them hoped for. Gypsy joined the podcast to promote her new book, which some are already calling the Book of Lies, aiming to expand her audience through Kail's influential platform. But instead of boosting their clout, this move has backfired spectacularly. Kail, who seemingly invited Gypsy for views and clicks, is now facing backlash from her own fans, many of whom feel this partnership contradicts her previously stated values about Gypsy. While the podcast episode did rack up impressive numbers, the fallout has led to serious questions about loyalty and integrity, leaving both stars' reputations hanging by a thread.
All right, Gypsy, thank you for coming on the Barely Famous podcast.
Thank you for having me.
Of course. So I read your book cover to cover in a couple hours.
Wow.
Yeah, and I'm really excited to talk about it. I run an online book club, so this was right up my alley.
Oh, perfect.
Let's dive into the fan reactions and what this could mean for her brand. Kail Lowry's Barely Famous podcast promises real, raw, and uncomfortable conversations with an unexpected mix of exes, friends, celebrities, TikTok stars, and everyone in between. True to its tagline, Kail explores topics that get weird, offering a side of her personality fans rarely see, but some recent episodes have raised eyebrows, especially her take on Gypsy's pregnancy story. Back in July, when Gypsy announced her pregnancy with boyfriend Ken, Kail didn't hold back. She called out Gypsy's oversharing, specifically zeroing in on details about her gas station period, which Kail found bizarre and unnecessary. This critique has fans questioning whether Kailin's raw vibe crosses into judgmental territory, and how that might play into her brand's overall appeal.
Gypsy announced on social media herself that she is in fact pregnant. Now, whatever floats your boat. Nobody was happy when I announced my pregnancy with Lux, tried to hide it, tried to do all of that. I wanted to keep it private, la-di-da, right? So I've been there. I've also been really excited and announced on social media also. So I get that. My concern is, there are several concerns, right? And not really my business, but because it's out there, I'm gonna comment like y'all do to me. She gives her exact gestational week, I guess you could say. She says she's 11 weeks. So she didn't even get to keep that private, I feel.
One unforgettable moment came in June when she opened up about her own mother while reviewing Gypsy's reality TV show, Life After Lockup. She didn't hold back in expressing her disapproval of Gypsy's shocking actions towards her mom, Dee Dee, calling it an atrocious betrayal. Reflecting on her own life, she revealed she hadn't spoken to her mother in over 5 years, admitting she'd made plenty of mistakes, but could never bring herself to commit something so permanently damaging. She confessed that the guilt of not speaking to her mother consumed her daily, haunting her with regret. In the podcast, she questioned how Gypsy could ever live with the weight of such a decision, one that she'll carry for life. At 32 years old, she admitted that even her own choice to cut ties with her mom was something she could barely cope with. So imagining Gypsy's guilt was almost incomprehensible.
At 32 years old, we don't know how many surgeries she's had, but she's had chemo. I don't know if she actually had that or if the mom just was saying that. She's had her teeth extracted. She's had the feeding tube. She's had all kinds of surgeries.
As fans were buzzing over Gypsy's shocking decision to walk away without a second thought, leaving heartbreak in her wake, it seemed the guilt didn't faze her. While Ryan was left devastated by her sudden exit, Kitten stirred up even more intrigue when she hinted at inviting Ryan onto her podcast. Fans were eager to hear his side of the story. Finally, a chance for him to share the truth and push back against the accusations Gypsy had been spreading. Kitten initially gained support for appearing to sympathize with Ryan, presenting herself as neutral amidst the chaos. But to everyone's dismay, instead of giving Ryan the platform he deserved, Kitten shocked her audience by bringing Gypsy on instead. This move allowed Gypsy to double down on her narrative, fueling claims of manipulation and lies while leaving Ryan's voice unheard. Fans couldn't believe the twist, as Kitten seemed to align herself with Gypsy despite the betrayal.
So, Kail, are you really supporting a woman that used a man with autism, a low IQ, and was collecting a permanent disability check with other mental health issues? Is that what you're doing now, Kail? Because I had a whole lot more respect for you. I actually have always respected you a lot for how you handle business and how well you take care of your kids. But the fact that this woman is on here lying and you are playing into this, wow, that's deep.
It all started with her teasing a mystery collaboration on social media, and her fans were buzzing with excitement, trying to guess who it could be. Then, out of nowhere, boom! The big reveal? It was Gypsy. To announce it, she shared a snippet of their hangout on Instagram and TikTok, jumping on the viral "We listen, we don't judge" trend. In the video, Gypsy dropped a bombshell, admitting she drank from a baby bottle well into adulthood. But it didn't stop there. Ken followed up with her own confession, saying she had self-medicated with her mother's medicine. Gypsy even chimed in again, revealing she'd stolen her mother's pain meds to get high. Fans were shook, and the internet hasn't stopped buzzing since.
We listen and we don't judge. You're first.
Okay, so I'm first. So, I used a baby bottle until I was an adult.
We all have trauma. We listen and we don't judge. I also thought about using my mom's meds to self-medicate. Relatable?
Yeah, very much. Yeah.
We listen and we don't judge.
So I also used to steal my mom's pain medication to get high.
Okay. We listen and we don't judge.
First, let's talk about the mystery surrounding Gypsy. How did she even know about getting high when she claimed her mom kept her totally isolated from the outside world? That's a huge contradiction, right? And it doesn't stop there. Ken brought up how Gypsy allegedly lied to CPS as a child, which makes you question what else she might be hiding. Then, there's the part where Gypsy mentioned writing a book in prison, and Kay jumped in with her own story about running away to live with her boyfriend. It all seemed to circle back to Gypsy using the moment to plug her book, but that last bit didn't quite land the way she probably hoped. What do you think? Is Gypsy trying to rewrite her story, or just sell a narrative?
We listen and we don't judge. I also lied to CPS as a child. We listen and we don't judge.
I wrote a book while I was in prison.
We listen and we don't judge. I also ran away to my boyfriend's house when I was young. So we listen and we don't judge.
To find out more, you can purchase my book wherever books are sold.
Kail's decision to host Gypsy on her podcast has left fans scratching their heads and lighting up the comment section with outrage. Despite Gypsy's notorious reputation and the controversy that follows her like a storm cloud, Kail seemed thrilled to have her on the show. Fans were quick to point out that this move screamed more about chasing clout and boosting views than anything else. Kail, well aware of the drama Gypsy brings, appeared to ignore the backlash that could spill over onto her own brand. For many, this felt like a desperate grab for attention, especially since Gypsy is the last person they ever imagined Kail would collaborate with. One fan didn't hold back, suggesting Kail only invited Gypsy because Ryan, a guest many had eagerly anticipated, hadn't yet appeared. Kail's cheeky reply? A laughing emoji. But it didn't feel playful. To fans, it came across as a laugh of shame. The backlash was swift, with loyal followers accusing Kail of abandoning the integrity and respect she'd built over the years. The once admired podcaster seemed more focused on quick fame and financial gains, leaving her audience feeling betrayed. The uproar escalated as fans questioned if Kail had really thought this through. Some bluntly told her to be ashamed, while others wondered aloud if she truly believed Gypsy was a good fit for the platform. What was once a strong bond of trust between Kail and her audience now feels fractured, all because of one guest choice that many are calling the wrong move entirely.
Also, I just feel as though for some reason the media is allowing her to perpetuate these lies, and there's too many things to prove that she's lying, including the chromosome disorder.
The backlash is real, and it's escalating fast. People are now calling for a full-on boycott of any show that dares to give Gypsy a platform. This puts Ken's podcast squarely in the crosshairs, with fans slamming her decision to feature Gypsy. Many were deeply disappointed, accusing Ken of stooping so low for clicks and views. The shift from simply discussing Gypsy to actually inviting her on the podcast has sparked outrage, leaving critics questioning Ken's motives and ethics.
Kail Lowry has Gypsy Rose Blanchard on her podcast, and they're promoting her book. I'm minding my business through my little Insta, okay? And I see that Kail posted something, so I said, okay, let me go ahead and check it out. And they're talking about how we read, we don't judge. Kail, I love you, girl. This was not something that I was expecting to see. And it was funny because Kail had posted something earlier saying, oh, guess who I'm a collab with? And I was really wondering, like, oh, I wonder who it's gonna be. This was not what I was expecting. Literally promoting her book. I'm shocked. Literally shook it. Like, this was not what I was expecting at all. Now, I did see that Gypsy was following Kail on her Instagram, but I didn't think anything of it because, Kail follows a bunch of people, Gypsy follows a bunch of people. Like, it really doesn't matter who follows who. So it really didn't click for me. It's clicking, but I am interested to see what Kail has to say in regards to the book. I want a review, girl, a whole review.
Kail's podcast is always a hot topic, with fans eagerly tuning in to see who she brings on. But this time, many are saying they'll be skipping the episode. Why? Because her guest Gypsy has built a reputation for spinning questionable narratives on nearly every platform she's been invited to. And let's not forget, Kail herself, a mom of 7, 6 boys, and 1 girl, has found herself at the center of tough questions. One of the most common: how would she feel if Gypsy manipulated one of her sons into committing a horrific act, like unaliving her, just so Gypsy could profit from the crime? It's a chilling hypothetical, and many doubt Kail would have an easy answer. But beyond the moral debates, people are questioning Gypsy's motives for appearing on Kail's show in the first place. Is it just another attempt to dominate every influential platform and push her narrative? Fans can't ignore the timing, especially since Kail had previously invited Ryan to her podcast, where he was expected to discuss his breakup with Gypsy. Could this be Gypsy's calculated move to overshadow Ryan before he even gets a chance to speak? Gypsy's history of taking subtle jabs at Ryan suggests this might not be far-fetched. She's known for her strategic moves, and her appearance on Kail's show could be another example of her trying to silence or outshine Ryan, ensuring he doesn't air details she'd rather keep hidden. Whether you call it overthinking or not, Gypsy is undeniably a master of manipulation, always operating with layers of hidden motives. Then, there's the fallout for Kail herself. Some fans argue that hosting Gypsy doesn't mean Kail supports her, but others believe simply giving Gypsy a platform is damaging. By featuring her, Kail might unintentionally amplify Gypsy's reach and relevance, further alienating her audience. So, what's the verdict? Has Kail risked her credibility and influence with this move? Has Gypsy become a storm that ruins everyone she crosses paths with? Or was this all part of Gypsy's grand plan to overshadow Ryan and control the narrative? Let us know your thoughts below. Do you think Kail made a mistake, or is there more to this story? Don't forget to like, subscribe, and stay tuned for more updates.